2024 at 6:31. Please call the roll.
Mr. Grunberg.
Here.
Dr. Early.
Here.
Mr. Williams here. Mr. Roscoe.
Here.
Mrs. Rayford. Mrs. Rayford.
Here.
Mrs. Richardson.
Present.
And Mrs. Grunberg.
Here.
You could all stand for the pledge. Dan will lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, just so the board is aware, the agenda that was posted had under 8B, there was a number 4. There was 8B, number 4, which is discussion item of a joint committee between the East Point Community Schools and the city of East Point. So that was on what was posted, and I'd like that added to what we have listed here at the table.
What was that?
Discussion item
4B?
4, yeah, 8B4. Discussion joint committee between East Point Community Schools and the city of East Point. I don't think it's on theirs out there in the audience as well either. But on the one that was actually posted and put up there, this was an old one that was done and then that item had been added. We got the old print, sorry. I just wanted to make sure that everybody understands that it's on there.
I make a motion that we accept the agenda with the next necessary correction.
Support.
Please call a vote.
Dr. Early.
Yes.
Mr. Roscoe.
Yes.
Mr. Grunberg.
Yes?
Mr. Williams, yes. Mrs. Rayford.
No.
Mrs. Richardson.
Yes.
And Mrs. Grunberg.
Yes.
Next, is there a motion for consent agenda?
Place motion to accept the consent agenda in its written form.
Support.
I don't understand. What is this? Is this what you just mentioned down here for number 4? Or the minutes for?
No, under 8B, we only have listed 1, 2, 3. There's a 4. There should be a 4 there as well, too.
No, I'm talking about for the consent agenda. There's A, but it mentions the regular meeting.
Yeah, minutes.
Okay, that's not the meeting that you just mentioned, right?
No,
No, that's,
Okay.
No, that's of our previous meeting.
Oh.
Me.
Please call a vote.
Mr. Roscoe.
yes.
Mr. Williams, yes. Mr. Grunberg.
Yes.
Dr. Early.
Yes.
Mrs. Rayford.
No.
Mrs. Richardson.
Yes.
Mrs. Grunberg.
Yes.
Next, we have superintendent's report. Superintendent Gibson.
Hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen joining us in the audience, and for those of you joining us at home, this is your superintendent's report this evening, April 22nd. We'll continue to focus on those moments that matter. Last week, we did close school due to the addition of an election in Warren, and for that day, our staff came together in professional learning. Here is some pictures of some of the Bellevue teachers working on their professional learning communities and their lessons and planning PBIS character traits push for the end of the year. So thank you to Bellevue Principal Julie Piper for leading that work and allowing the staff to have some necessary time in collaboration together. Staff also participated in professional learning around the district. There was Sean McRady, pictured here, working with the Pleasant View staff on the social studies standards. We had staff members and different buildings focusing on iReady, mathematics, literacy footprints and small group instruction, and more unpacking of the portrait of a graduate as well. At Crescentwood, a number of our board members had an opportunity to attend their awards dinner. Thank you to the students and the board members that were able to go, as Crescentwood honored their students for math and reading achievements and had a special dinner with all of their families. Last week was also senior pinning. The class of 2024 seniors and their loved ones all filled the auditorium of East Point High School. We celebrated our honors students, our student assembly representatives, and then students wrote letters to their family members or their person that they desired to have pin them, and vice versa. It was a wonderful celebration of our seniors and a great opportunity to meet so many of our parents who are so very proud of their graduating seniors. Outstanding teacher celebration. We recently got a chance to celebrate with the Macomb Intermediate School District all of the outstanding teachers in this county, and in particular, our very own Lisa James was celebrated at this outstanding teacher celebration. It was a lovely evening celebrating all of our outstanding teachers in Macomb County. Last week, we had a facilities master plan input session face-to-face. A big thank you to those staff, community members, and families members who came out in spite of the torrential downpour of rain to participate and give us their input. We also held a virtual session on Friday, and thank you to the community members and family members who participated in this session. If you did not get a chance to participate in the face-to-face session or the online session, we invite community members, families, and staff to complete the Facilities Master Plan survey. For staff that might be asking, this is a little bit of a different survey than the initial one that was sent out by the district. Please be sure to go in and rank which building plan you think is the best plan for our organization as we look at continuing to deeply invest in our schools. May 2nd, we have Gleaners Mobile Food Distribution, 11:30 a.m. at East Point Middle School. May 13th, we have our next regular Board of Education meeting. May 27th is a no school day. It is Memorial Day. And May 30th will be our commencement at 7 p.m. at Macomb Community College. Our spring sports are all underway. I know this evening prior to this board meeting, I was able to catch the baseball game where our gentlemen represented us well. We do need some better pitching, but otherwise, they did a great job in their field work. So please head on out. Forest Park is where you'll find soccer happening in the afternoons, and out there at Memorial Field, baseball field, you'll find the baseball game. So please check our website for updates. Up next, I'd like to invite Danny Latham to the podium. Danny is the Supervisor of Technology and School Safety Coordinator, and has been invited to come to the board to give the board an update on our technology services plan and our safety plan, and he brought his own operations fan club here in the audience as well as a display over there on the side that I know that he'll reference. So Danny, thank you so much for being here and sharing more about our school safety and technology.
Well, thank you. Good evening, board. The goal here is just to give you a little overview of where we're at in technology and some of the improvements we've made over time. Give you a little overview of the department. Our technology department includes one school technology and school safety coordinator. That's myself. I have two support specialists from Edu staff. One of them is Helen Lee, who's here tonight. The Edu staff folks handle mainly student help desk type requests, problems with Chromebooks, problems with student IDs, account creation, suspension. One thing people don't realize is every time a student transfers in or transfers out, if they transfer in, they need an account. If they transfer out, we have to suspend that access. So there's a daily process that goes on in technology to keep things secure. I also have a half of an administrative assistant. I share my administrative assistant with the operations department. And then last year, probably May, the board approved transitioning our managed service provider services over to UTech. And we are provided 2 employees from UTech, one of them being a level 1, level 2 desktop support person, and then a higher skilled person to do the engineering type work. Here's a picture of the technology staff. Again, Ron's not pictured because he was behind the camera. But those are the folks that I spend every day with in the office, and those are the folks that put up with me every day in the office. Again, UTech took over the support from All Covered in July of 2023. Their first year of the contract expires at the end of June this year. They provide mainly the support to district staff members, folks that are on Windows devices. They manage our district infrastructure, our servers, our switches, firewalls. They also handle all of our managed print services like the copy machines, management of the paper cut software, which actually allows us to control prints, and it allows people to print anywhere in the district. So they could be at administration, print something out, go over to Bellevue, scan their key fob, and out there it comes. And they also assist us in the procurement of hardware if it's needed. Typically, I go through multiple vendors, so it's not a guarantee for them that every time they're going to get the business, we're going to go with the best qualified bid. As of April 1st of this year, we have had a total of 1,940 tickets generated for the district. This is a total number of tickets, which includes anytime patches are deployed, anytime there's a server that's rebooted. It also includes preemptive tickets, where if the system senses that somebody's hard drive's having a problem, it will automatically generate a ticket for UTech to respond to. Of those 1,940 tickets, 683 of them required either a remote assistance session or a in-person session where they have to respond to the person's desk to resolve the issue. Now, some of the items that we support in technology, and these are not all inclusive. We've got 95 switches throughout the districts and 2 firewalls. There's 26 servers throughout the district. Our phone system, 35 copiers. The one that gets me is we have 3,640 user accounts. That includes staff, students, service accounts, service to service accounts. It's quite a few objects to manage. When you add on top of that, we've got over 50 plus applications that are in the environment that may require support at one time. One thing that we also have is real-time student safety monitoring. So through our filtering software, if it detects using AI, if it detects something where a self-harm condition, a threat condition, a bullying condition, a violence condition, it will automatically generate alerts, and those alerts are sent to the buildings for the buildings to respond to those situations. Prior to 2023, 2024, we did some good investment in our district infrastructure. We've purchased new networking switches and firewalls, Promethean active panels. We replaced our district file servers, our uninterruptible power supplies, which are the devices that pick up when your power goes out, it runs on battery. We changed from desktop devices to laptop devices for all our staff. And we implemented a one-to-one deployment of technology. Prior to the COVID era, there was we had enough technology for about 15 to 20% of our students at any one time. In that period between the end of school and the start of the next school year, we were a one-to-one district. It was a challenge, but we got through it. The most recent update to our district technology would be our phone system. We installed 441 physical phones. There's 727 phone users in the district. And believe it or not, there's 1,697 phone numbers assigned to our district. So you asked, why do we have so many numbers? Each phone has multiple phone numbers assigned to it, and there is a specific one-to-one relationship for 911. So if a person dials 911, that actually leaves the district on a phone number specified for 911 so that the dispatcher can inbound call back without having to go through the main office. There's emergency response locations, so when you dial 911 from a district phone, it broadcasts what's called a dispatchable location. So it's not good enough anymore to say it's East Point Middle School. Now it's East Point Middle School, room, 212, second floor, west wing. So it actually provides that information for the PSAP to get out to the responding units. And we've also removed any references to East Detroit Public Schools. There were still quite a few phone numbers hanging on to that as their caller ID information, so we went through and made sure that all of that was updated. As part of the phone replacement project, I took the opportunity to find a device that would allow us to do announcements through the phone system. And I lucked out, I found a device that not only allows us to do that, but allows us to broadcast pre-recorded emergency messages so that you can hit a single button, leave your office, and that message is still broadcasting through the buildings as you're assisting people getting out of the building or taking shelter, whatever the case may be. It's no longer somebody having to stand at the PA system and make the announcement or sit on a phone and make the announcement. They just hit one button and off it goes. The nice thing about this is kind of future-proofed it. It can be integrated into emergency alert systems so that if we were to go to a pendant-based system or a pull station-based system, this could be integrated with that to produce those announcements. One of the other challenges that we've been going through for the last few years is the service that you get for copper phone lines it's considered a degraded or retired technology for copper phone lines. So that basically gives the phone companies the ability to charge as much as they want and to take their time servicing those items. So as the costs continued to climb, it was time to move over to a different type of solution. So we have outfitted every one of the buildings with a cellular-based device. It's multi-homed, which means first it'll try and make a call out over the internet through voice over IP. And in milliseconds, if that doesn't work, it'll transition over to a cellular line and make the call through the cellular service. Where does this become important? If you have a building that loses connectivity back to the high school or back to another phone routing location, you can't make 911 calls unless there is a backup service at that building. So that is what this is doing. If the fiber goes down to any one of our buildings, locally this device will pick up and transmit the 911 calls. Same for elevators. The nice thing is it also provides us an ability to monitor the status of those services, whereas with copper lines, we could not. We are making some cybersecurity improvements throughout the district. This is the first year that we have required staff members to take a cybersecurity training course related to email safety and phishing. We've also implemented two-factor authentication on Google accounts. So basically, when a user signs into a new device that they don't use frequently, or if Google senses that there's a change in their account status, it's going to send them another notification, typically on their cell phone, and ask them for a code. They're going to enter that code in. That will re-authenticate them. And the nice thing about Google is it doesn't require it on every login because it generates a pass token on the device. So as long as you're logging in from a device that you've approved before, you're not forced to re-authenticate. So it cuts back on any delays. As far as data security enhancements, we're currently in the process of rolling out and implementing a complex password strategy. So your passwords are going to, district passwords are going to need to be 12, at least 12 characters, uppercase, lowercase, a number, a special symbol. They can't be reused. These will expire every 90 days. So that'll be a little different than the staff is used to, but it's moving us into a more solid cybersecurity standpoint. One big change to our district infrastructure has been our connection to the intermediate school district. Our fiber or internet service is provided by fiber that runs from the Macomb ISD into our district. We also, through our district, service some of the Warren districts as far as fiber space. But what we've done, we did roughly 3 weeks ago, is we moved from a 1 gigabit copper connection to a 10 gigabit fiber connection to the ISD. That's going to allow us to increase our speed, and more than I'm worried about speed is it allows us to increase our capacity. As we continue to move forward with new curriculum that's online-based or internet-based, as well as our testing platforms, the added capacity is going to definitely take out any roadblocks as far as data bottlenecks. This year is the one-to-one strategy in the district. We changed our approach from just giving every student a device to using carts in the classroom. This was done for a few reasons. One of them being the amount of loss in broken devices to the district. As of this month, we've had 120 insurance claims for repairs. Last year, we had 308. So we have cut down the amount of damage being done substantially by taking this approach. Coming up on the horizon, we have a bond project coming up. We've partnered with Communications by Design to evaluate our current technology position in advance of any bond spending. So we're pulling them in to say, okay, this is, they're looking, this is where you're at, this is where you need to go, and this is how we're going to get there. They will be assisting in developing a district technology plan to address bond spending and future technology department spending. For quite a few years, we were replacing things as they broke and not doing proactive replacement. Good example would have been the last phone system, where we try and keep it running as long as we possibly can, but what ends up happening is you get to a point where your vendor will no longer support it. They'll say, you are too far behind. You have to move forward. So we're trying to get a cyclical program created so that we know we're able to budget better. Now the next portion is the school safety portion. So if you hold on a minute, the school safety person will be right here.
Okay.
Okay. Good evening, board.
Good evening. How are you?
Sorry, I just wanted to make everybody smile.
There you go. There you go.
Well, I don't have a split personality. I am still Danny Latham, and I am still the technology and school safety coordinator, probably until after this meeting when I get caught in the hallway and Christy yells at me. For the 2023-2024 school year, we've had some activities on the school safety side of the house. One of the biggest pushes, right around the time of Oxford, the Oxford High School incident, the state established a grant for schools to have what they call critical incident maps created. Critical incident maps provide a quick and easy way for responding agencies to share information. So it would be basically anything information-wise regarding school safety is confidential information. It's not available on FOIA requests. So we try to keep the actual documents, they're not hidden, they're just protected. Understand that the examples I'm going to show you today are from Critical Incident Mapping's website, just to show you some of the product. I have actual critical incident maps with me tonight. If you want to see them after the meeting, I'll be happy to show them to you. Just understand these are tactical response maps for emergency services. These critical incident maps have been loaded up to emergency management, Sarisa Dispatch, East Point Police, Sheriff's Department, MSP. Basically, any of the local and regional response agencies have access to this information. So as we go on and look at a critical incident map, the goal is to have a consistent delivery of the information to multiple agencies. This information is available in dispatch centers. It's also available on their in-car computers or their CAD system. So they could actually roll up to a building and know exactly where they need to go in the building for a location. They all have they're all grid style. So you've got your alphabet on one side, your numbers on the other. Your landmarks and critical features, any site-specific information, things like gymnasium or cafeteria, where another responding agency may not know media center. Well, what room is a media center? Well, they can look on that map and they'll know. It also includes the hallways, stairwells, exits, exterior door numbers. So I don't know if you've noticed outside of all of our exterior egress doors in the district, there are numbers. Those numbers are on this map. And any geo-relevant integrated floor plans. There are two types of maps. One is a micro, one is called we'll go macro first. Macro is your higher level plan. So it's a big aerial view. Take for instance, like Bellevue Elementary. It would cover Flower to Phlox and then Bell all the way to 10 Mile. It would cover that whole geographic area and it would all be mapped out. Then when you go to the micro map, which is a map of just the actual building facility, your grid corresponds with that. So when you're deploying resources, you have an easy way to do that. Another activity that we took part in this year is the risk and vulnerability assessments. Risk and vulnerability assessments have to be done every 3 years. And we partnered with Macomb County Emergency Management to have this task completed. This is the same organization that completed our first vulnerability assessment. So there's a relationship there as far as what things they've been able to see, what we've changed based off of previous items. Everything in that risk and vulnerability assessment is documented, and suggested considerations were provided as far as some of the things that we could do quickly to maybe shore things up a little better. One of them was, take for instance, it was labels or signs that tell everybody at a school, all visitors and vendors must sign in at main office, photo ID required. Well, we didn't have that, we do now. Simple things that we can work through the buildings with as far as process changes are getting rolled out. One of the other items or interesting items is that if you have a visitor that comes into your building, they suggest that who's ever checking that visitor in retain their photo ID until they depart the building. That does two things. One, if something happens, you have their ID, and two, they have to see you to check out so you know when they've left the building. Other items are things that require a actual facility type of change, whether it's installing bollards in front of buildings, relocating where dumpsters are, things of that nature. So some of those are bigger items that have been passed on to operations for potential inclusion in some of the bond work that's going I added this slide today, so it's new. I just wanted to give you a status on where we're at as far as emergency drills in the district. Each building is required to conduct 5 fire drills, 2 severe weather drills, and 3 security lockdown drills. The Early Learning Center completes 3 severe weather drills, and that's a state licensing requirement for them. In total, we have 71 drills to complete in a school year. We've completed 62 of them, and we have 9 remaining. Again, for bond-related activity as it relates to school safety, there are items that are on the operations side of the house that are going to be included. From a technology and my side of the house, one of the things that we want to focus on are like district security cameras, any potential digital signage we need throughout the district, alerting systems, and potential two-way radio system. Again, this is something that we'll be working with Communications by Design to prioritize, get some ideas, go out and look at other districts and see what works and what doesn't. And at this point, I don't have any other slides, but I have time for questions.
Really good presentation.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Will we have to change our emails, our district emails every 90 days, our password?
You will not, because you are not an Active Directory user. Your account only exists in the Google space. This is for people that actually log into a district computer through Active Directory.
Every 90 days is rough.
It is. Some of our other systems, like the AS400, our mainframe is 60 days.
I get it.
And
for hackers
multi-factor
and-
every
right.
time you log in.
And then my last question is it legal to hold somebody's state ID or license? Because I know years ago,
Yeah,
it wasn't legal.
Yeah, that's what emergency management is recommending. We're not keeping it, we're holding it until they
Right.
leave the building.
Yeah. I would check on that yourself.
One of the other things too is that as we go through for this bond project, there are different types of systems out there, a visitor request system where you can accomplish some of the same things, even more. So we'll be looking into those as well.
At this time, it's not part of our practice or policy.
Yeah.
Right.
Because could it be some type of scannable, scan their license to pull up their information?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Good job.
Thank you.
Danny, where do I want to start? We have 100% ownership of the equipment. I'm coming off of the school safety side. Or are
100%
we partners with other
ownership of what?
equipment, all of the equipment that we've purchased?
Our technology?
Our technology.
Yes.
Okay, and then the second part of that question, in case of we have to move or change, is all the equipment interchangeable or can adapt to new programs?
So you're referring to what keeps me up at night right now?
What keeps
is
you up at night?
restructuring of the district?
Yes, sir.
Yes, all of the equipment can be repurposed, can be set up for, if I could pull switches out of the high school and move them at the middle school, vice versa. It will take programming changes, but yes, that can be done and will be done. One of the things that we're kind of waiting on right now is to find out what direction we are going, because any purchases, any planning, any of the bond-related activity is going to be dependent on which direction we go as far as facilities. It just would not be a very wise move or responsible move to plan to purchase a whole bunch of equipment when there may be opportunities to leverage some stuff that we currently have.
Thank you, sir. And a great presentation.
Thank you.
Very thorough.
I have just a couple of, for the grant that we receive. We often get grants to be able to purchase stuff, to do something, this or that, but we never get grants to maintain it. Is there anything like out there to help us maintain the services we have to make sure that our fiber lines is working 5 years from now?
Well, the interesting thing that it's very much like a bond. The bond will fund the initial purchase. The ongoing support and maintenance is up to you. one of the challenges is specifically like with the E-rate program. E-rate allowed us at one point to use E-rate to fund our telephony services, all of our phone stuff. USAC, who's the federal agency who manages that, they made a change to E-rate, and you cannot use E-rate money for anything that is phone-related. So if anything, right now, the funding streams have kind of been pulled back, but they are releasing, there was just and I did not have a chance to read through the whole grant today, but there was another grant that that's been released that potentially we could leverage for maybe our SRO or some other school safety-related activities. But no, the ongoing support and services are something that we as a district would have to fund and take on.
Because that's always one of the biggest things. It's wonderful we can get the equipment, but if we can't take care of it,
Right.
it's going to be hurtful for us down the line.
Right, and it's great to have new equipment. It's very tedious to budget and plan for the maintenance of that equipment, especially when devices have different lifespans.
Right. My next one is the equipment. The statistics that you gave us, the 108 and 308 against the 120 for the laptops that the students are getting. That equipment, what are we doing with that equipment since we don't now send it back and forth?
Oh, it's in the schools. That's in the carts.
Did they stay?
Yep. That
So then,
equipment.
for our disadvantaged students that needs to do homework at home,
They have the ability to check out a device through the media center, just as if it was a library book. So there's more controls around it. It's different giving somebody or student a device for the entire school year.
Yeah.
And expecting that to be maintained and I'm just going to say not abused. It's a lot easier to control that when you're having them bring that in every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks. The device gets checked, make sure there's no damage, and then if they need it again, they can check it back up.
okay, so that's what I was worried about.
Yeah, we're not putting up roadblocks. We're providing the asset and still providing some protection, making sure our assets are taken care of.
Thank you.
I have a question, Danny. Yeah, Williams. I was wondering, with your macro mapping devices, you say you have numbers at each one of the doors?
Yes, there are door numbers.
Okay, so when that, let's say door G is open by the dumpsters or something, where does that signal go to and who receives that signal?
This is not an electronic door position monitoring system. This is just a response map, it's a flat piece of paper or.
Oh, it's just a map for the police?
Correct.
Fire. Okay.
It is not a door positioning sensor, which would be great to have, but it's not what this is referring to.
Okay, and another question, with the switching of landline to VoIP lines and different things like that, isn't that a cheaper transition? And because with fiber, the 1 to 10% ratio that you referred to, fiber carries way more information than landlines do. So is that a cheaper transition or is that a more expensive transition?
So there's two different things here, and I want to, so there's no confusion. The fiber, the fiber that services our internet is completely separate from our phone system. So our phone system has 2 fiber optic paths into the district, one routed to the middle school, one routed to the high school. Should the primary go down, it fails over to the secondary, whatever building that may be, for phone service. Now that phone service is just a small fiber. It's only 25 megs for our voice, because that's all it needs is a small path. If that fiber goes down, if our phone fiber goes down, the device will attempt to utilize our internet fiber to get out of the building through the ISD to make the call. If both fibers are down, that's when it will utilize the cellular service to make that outbound call. So as far as the cost savings measure, yes, there is a cost savings. By switching over to the cellular solution, it's going to save the district between about $5,500 a year, about $5,000.
Thank you. And very good presentation.
Thank you.
I understand. I don't want to get into all the switches and servers and all that, but that's,
When you guys are done with your meeting, I did bring a sample of devices. So if you wanted to see what the taxpayers' money is getting spent on and some of the new equipment, it's over here. I'll be happy to show you, explain it to you. I also have copies of the actual high school critical incident maps. If you want to view those, we can jump into a conference room and I can show those to you. Any other questions?
I have nothing at this time.
Okay.
First off,
Microphone. Only because I can't hear you.
I'm not a good tech guy. That's why you're paid the money you're paid, I guess. Anyways, first off, I read at some schools this year, and I noticed a few things, and I just want to confirm. First off, I think there was when I was reading in one of the classrooms, there was a severe weather drill.
Okay.
So the kids all had to go out to the hallway.
Yep.
Sit down, put their heads down on their
Yep.
thing. Now, that voice I heard in the background, it kept repeating itself over and over. That was a system that you were talking about
Correct.
earlier?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Found it a little irritating, but quite necessary,
Yes. And
to
that's,
be quite honest with you. And I have to remark, too, the kids were remarkable, remarkable. They were there so long as an adult standing watching them, I began to question in my head, how long are we going to require these kids to keep their heads down? But they all did it.
right.
They all did it until the all clear was sounded. And then they lifted their heads up. Yeah, I tell you, it's a fantastic drill. I couldn't be prouder of our kids. And then the second thing, so that answered that question. Second thing is awful lot of phones, right? We got quite a few phones.
You have a phone in every classroom, in every office, every
But we
kitchen.
have more than enough phones at this point to create a very safe situation as far as communication.
Oh, yeah,
in our building.
absolutely. Matter of fact, on the phones that have been installed in the buildings, I put 2 speed dials on those phones. So those speed dials, one has a button, it just says office. They push it, it calls the office as like a normal phone call. There's a second button that says assistance, and that is when they have a problem in the classroom and they need help now. They hit the assistance button and it displays on all the secretary phones and principal's phones that what classroom is calling for assistance. So it's a lot easier than trying to remember what the office's phone number is or pulling out your phone sheet to try and get a hold of somebody. Now they have speed dials that'll get them there. And if I could go back to the pre-recorded announcements, one of the biggest gains on having the emergency announcements pre-recorded is it gives the students consistency. It's a consistent message from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. They know when they hear that voice or that message, this is the same drill that we used to do at Forest Park or at Pleasant View or at the middle school. We know what we have to do because the message has been consistent throughout their I would say, career here in our district.
And the last thing is a little story we got, I don't know, there was a debate as to whether we call them smart boards, whiteboards. When we very first got them introduced into the district years and years and years ago, after about a year or two in the district, there was a bunch of high school students who happened to stop by a meeting. Meeting wasn't even, it's so long ago, it wasn't even held in this, it was actually held in, I think they have housing over there now at Deerfield. But it was held over at the old administration building years ago. Anyways, the students came in and I asked them how's it going with the whiteboards, I think is what we ended up referring them to. And they says, well, the teachers don't know how to use them. They said they're still using them because you could use them as a dry erase board at that time. You could still use a dry erase marker on there and an eraser on there, and most teachers were using them almost like a dry erase slash or like a chalkboard, right? And that's what the students tell me years and years and years ago. Fast forward to me reading in these classrooms, and my God, I can actually say that the one-on-one devices that you have at the elementary level, both classrooms that I went into, every student had that device on their desk at that time when I walked in there. And I was towards the end of the day, so it was easy to tell that they had been using them throughout the day. So the devices are getting used on a regular basis. When I read at the high school, I don't want to mispronounce it, I'll call it the Pro Board now, okay? Can I call it Pro Board for short?
Active panel, just call it an active panel.
Okay, whatever you want to call it. But when I read at the high school, that was used throughout the whole lesson plan and as I was reading as well too. So you can tell that that's used on a regular basis. So I'm just very happy to say that our investments in technology now are being effectively utilized much more than they had been back in the past when we first started to introduce them. Because I think the newness is kind of wore off and educators have gotten better at using this stuff as well too. Don't ever ask me to use it. We're going to be lost for sure. But I just wanted to remark it was really nice to see, especially when I walked into a second grade class and I walk in there and they all got these what do you call them? Chromebooks. I don't know the difference between a Chromebook and an iPad, obviously. So.
Yeah.
I thought that was I went up there, I thought that was like mine, and somebody told me, no, yours is an iPad. That's a Chromebook. I said, they both got keys. They look the same to me, so. I'm not alone. Thank you.
One of the interesting things is when I first came to the district, if the teacher's classroom technology wasn't working, there was breathing room of about 8 to 12 hours before they would call and yell and say, my equipment isn't working. So you had some time to respond. Now the technology is such a core piece of the curriculum and instruction that if a ticket is submitted and somebody doesn't answer or respond to that within 15, 20 minutes, usually my cell phone's going off. Okay, is somebody coming over? Is somebody coming over? It's like, yes, you just have to give them time. So the technology is absolutely being used in the classrooms.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Very good presentation.
Thank you so much, Mr. Latham. We appreciate you coming and updating the board on our school safety and our technology.
Thank you.
So that concludes the superintendent's report for this evening.
Okay, next we have hearing of the public. I'll open that up at 7:19. Does anyone wish to be heard? Please state your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, Cindy Federley. I spoke at a meeting in January about what I feel is poor planning when spending district money. I'm referencing the purchase of a van, which you planned on for over a year, yet put no policy or procedure in place pertaining to who would be allowed to drive the vehicle. And yes, I did understand Mrs. Gruenberg's reference to it being grant money, not taxpayer funds. All grants essentially come from taxpayers, Mrs. Gruenberg. It's not money falling from the sky. Even a grant from a business comes from increased costs to their customers. The reason I bring this up is because I feel we were deceived by all of you when you sold the recent bond to taxpayers. You must have had knowledge that our buildings were seriously underutilized, yet you excitedly told us that you want to repair the pool and fix the buildings. I agree that there are serious structural issues that need to be addressed, and our students and staff deserve updates. I think you need to focus on improving test scores, which seems to be happening with the new curriculum being introduced to the younger students. I also believe that all of the school board needs to investigate these new programs. You may not be an educator, but you have been elected to research all money being spent. You were not elected to rubber stamp everything brought to you by the superintendent. You don't need a teaching degree to look at a worksheet a child is assigned to know if it looks engaging. Everybody can tell that. The school board needs to look at their decisions and how it has impacted our test scores. One other thing I want to mention is you had these community education about the bond, or about these changes to the buildings, but you scheduled them when most parents are at work. 4 o'clock and 1 o'clock are not times people can be engaged. I think that you should hold one of those sessions in the evening when parents might be able to listen. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Please state your name. You got 3 minutes. Thank you.
My name is Miss Willie. I just wanted to make a comment. if we can get our peace and a good in-school work environment, why can't we bring back the Pledge of Allegiance? Why can't we bring back, if we don't bring back prayer in school, why not the Ten Commandments? At least it's teaching them, giving them a background on how to communicate and interact with each other before we get into all this investment into this technology. Yeah, it's a good ideal, but still, if we put something in their mind positive, they'll have something to interact with each other. Safer school environment. So why is that so hard? You're going to schools and reading to schools, why can't you read to the children about the Ten Commandments? Or doing the Pledge of Allegiance, teaching them their rights as far as being American? These are questions I'm asking. Is it anything you could say?
At this point, this is a hearing of the public. We listen to what you have to do. We can respond at a later time, but we don't respond right now at this time.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, thank you.
So if we could talk to you after the meeting, if you want to talk to somebody, or the superintendent, we'll get in touch with you as well, too. Okay? Thank you. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Anyone else wish to be heard? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing of the public at 7:23. Next, discussion action, we have curriculum, a recommendation for a purchase.
All right, good evening, community and Board of Education. As you know, East Point Community Schools is committed to developing curriculum to support all students. In alignment with our strategic planning goal number 1, we aim to implement a guaranteed and viable curriculum to increase student achievement in all subject areas, kindergarten through 12th grade. And we've made a pretty good dent in the last year and a half. Tonight, the curriculum team is making the recommendation to adopt resources from the iReady literacy portfolio for grades K through 5. After an extensive pilot and adoption process, the Board of Education viewed the curriculum department's presentation to the community on April 8th at our board meeting that evening, and we provided the opportunity to review the new materials in person on April 15th, where 3 of our board members came out to meet with our team and get hands-on experience with the curricular resources. So thank you for that. The curriculum purchase will include teachers' editions and student workbooks for the following resources. We will be getting magnetic reading foundations for grades K through 2, Ready Reading, grades K through 2, magnetic reading, grades 3 through 5, Ready Writing, grades 2 through 5, the iReady Reading Diagnostic, digital licenses for teachers, administrators, and students, including the teacher toolbox and personalized instruction for students, professional development package for ongoing training and support. This will be a one-time purchase with a 5-year renewal for a total cost of $630,000, $780,000. I've applied for a 35J literacy grant and was just awarded $319,170, which will bring our total district costs actually down to $311,610, which will be paid out of ESSER. So that's over half we were able to secure through grant funds. So tonight we're asking the board to approve this curriculum resource purchase. With a vote.
What?
Place for the recommendation to purchase the K through 5 ELA curriculum.
Support.
Questions? Comments? Yes? Mary here.
I wanted to say thank you again, Mr. Trevor. As an educator, I understand the importance of having curriculum that's adaptable and being able to align certain parts of it for special needs kids, for whatever the need is. And I think that's one of the things I found really intriguing. I thought it was an excellent program. I said that to you, and I'm glad for the opportunity to look for. I was thinking about this, and it's like, it's not that I don't trust you or anyone who works for the district, but I've been driving a Buick for over 20 years. It's not that I don't trust the manufacturer, but I'm not paying for a car I haven't seen. So I think when we look at that type of logic, it's important that we understand exactly what it is we're getting. And so I appreciate you taking the time. We saw everything that we needed to. I was satisfied that students will be building on a foundation of vocabulary and understanding the difference between, all the literary aspects. Because I think I kind of got on Lisa's nerve asking questions about that. But I just think it's important because I've seen far too many times when people have gotten into high school and didn't get the foundation, and I feel really comfortable in the knowledge that our students will have everything they need to move forward, even through college. So I really appreciate that, and I'm glad that this program is available to us.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
I want to say as a not educator, because I wasn't a teacher in school proper, but when you first walked in the room, you could see how much joy the children would have looking at the books, looking at the curriculum. You could see how everything was color-coded for each grade level. And that was the first thing I noticed, because we notice with our eyes before we do anything in the book. If this book is brown, it don't seem like it's gonna be that inciting to us. But if it's a color-coded book, we look for what it has to offer. So that was one of the first things that I noticed. I appreciate the opportunity that you allowed us, even though we didn't have to, but you allowed us to be able to look at the curriculum and ask questions that was viable that we wanted to ask you. That y'all took the time to go through the PowerPoints, that you took the time to make sure that we understood what we were getting. And it is very important that we understand what we're getting, even though we don't have to do that. You didn't have to go that far. I appreciate that you went that far. And so I just want to say, I'm glad that we're going to say yes to this, because I can't see anybody saying no. I can't. Really. Y'all did a great job in vetting this. It was a great job to see all the teachers that were involved in the process and hear how they felt, to see the statements that they wrote about this program. We already adopted the math part, so finishing the circle is worth it. And I think that our children will get the best investment that they can out of it. So thank you so much. We appreciate you for all your work. You and your team.
All right, I'm next. I just wanted to say that this curriculum, my granddaughter is in one of the test classes, and her report card that came out went up a whole grade, so thank you.
Anything else? I just want to make one comment. The fact that you said that the grant was basically going to cover about half of the cost, and you said that this is a 5-year program, that basically breaks down to an investment of slightly over $60,000 a year, I think, which to me, the positive impact that this will have on the students of East Point Community Schools, since we as a board, one of the biggest things we do is as far as budgeting and how we budget our resources to have the most impact possible. And this becomes, I guess, can we say no-brainer?
No-brainer.
This basically becomes almost like a no-brainer because the investment is very small based upon the positive impact that it will have. So this is a pretty easy one for all of us, I think. I hate to say that though, because it's pretty easy to tell by the way people are talking out there that they like the program. Please call the vote.
That would be you, Edward.
Okay, Mr. Roscoe,
Yes.
Mr. Grunberg,
Yes.
Mrs. Grunberg, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Mr. Grunberg,
Yes.
Dr. Early,
Yes.
Mr. Williams, yes. Mrs. Rayford,
Yes.
Mrs. Richardson.
Yes.
Okay, everybody up here realizes that you can kind of word and do motions as you so choose, right? So in the next one, I would move that in this, as far as schools of choice 105 and 105C, that the board opt into both of those. Is there support for that motion?
Support.
Questions or comments?
I have a question. Are you opting into?
Opting into them.
Into this so that we have schools of choice?
Yes,
This is for 1 year?
yes, this is for this year. We will revisit it again.
So
before-
annually, the
Yep.
Board of Education has to take action to approve schools of choice. So the in-county schools of choice is 105, out-of-county is 105C.
I am, well, go ahead. If some people follow the vote from year to year, they may notice that I'm probably going to vote a little different this year than I have in past years. If you want to discuss that with me individually after the meeting, feel free to do so. I'm not going to get into the long story of it. Please call the vote.
Mr. Grunberg,
Yes.
Mr. Williams, yes. Mr. Roscoe,
Yes.
Mrs. Rayford,
Yes.
Mrs. Richardson,
Yes.
Mrs. Grunberg,
No.
Dr. Early,
No.
Then we have to reschedule a meeting on May 27th. Board needs to approve the rescheduled date.
Yep, good evening. There are two possible dates for that week. Unfortunately, when we put out our board meeting schedule, we did not notice the oversight that the 27th fell on the holiday. City Council, we have checked with city offices. This room is available on Tuesday, May 28th, and Wednesday, May 29th. It is the board's pleasure to reschedule that meeting on either of those 2 days.
What were they again?
So we can either reschedule for Tuesday, May 28th, or Wednesday, May 29th.
Same time?
It would be the same time, just, so we just need to make a decision on whether or not we'd like the Tuesday evening or the Wednesday evening.
Tuesday.
I'm Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Tuesday's on the 28th. All right.
Oh, they talk.
No. Then you got your grandson's
What do you guys all talking Tuesday? It's Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday's fine.
It's Tuesday. Okay. Is there,
I have no problem with Tuesday.
okay. I would move that we change the meeting date of May 27th to May 28th, still at 6:30, still here.
And what our team will
That's-
do is that if, you would make the motion that we change it, and if the team does not have any items, we would come to the board and let you know, and then we can always cancel the meeting, but we wanted to make sure we at least rescheduled it and had it on the books in case we needed it.
Is there support for that? Support.
Support. Oh.
Yeah, one last comment, because as the superintendent was saying, we are only required to have one meeting per month, so we will still have one meeting that month.
Yeah.
So even if we did cancel it, we'll still be. But at least we will reschedule.
John Gruenberg made the motion, and then Robert Roscoe made the second. Thank you.
Please call the vote.
Mr. Grunberg,
Yes.
Mr. Roscoe,
Yes.
Dr. Early,
Yes.
Mr. Williams, yes. Mrs. Rayford,
Yes.
Mrs. Richardson,
Yes.
and Mrs. Grunberg.
Yes.
Okay, then the next item is the one that was supposed, wasn't on here, but it is on there. Discussion of joint committee between East Point Community Schools and the city of East Point. How that transpired was myself and the superintendent were talking about the fact improving the schools. And it was kind of like an open conversation. And I've always been of the opinion for quite some time that the school districts and the city are kind of conjoined pretty much. I mean, the success of the schools depends on the success of the city and vice versa. So I felt that it was important, and we talked about it, and she made the suggestion is, you know, maybe you might want to reach out, maybe we could get something going. So I called Mayor Mike Kleinfeld. I don't know if I called him, I think I might have texted. No, I called him, I think it was. Anyways, I communicated with him and made the suggestion to him that maybe we want to do a joint meeting like this. And we talked about it and we decided that it might be best if it was the mayor, the board president, superintendent, city manager, and then one other board member and one other council member. So that's what we were looking at doing. A couple of things to remember. This committee will just be kind of like facilitating for the most part, so that the city and the school district will be collaborating at the same time. So we're not stepping on each other's toes. We're not pulling in separate directions. Even though we're both trying to do good things, inadvertently, we might be pulling in separate directions from time to time. So that basically we get on the same page and we're pulling together the city and the school district at the same time. We will have no authority to enact anything, because obviously if any suggestions come up at committee, we would have to go to our prospective bodies and get their approval to do these things. So nothing could be done by this committee separate from the other bodies. That would be the first caveat that you have to remember. Second one is, as far as I'm concerned, I won't condone or, I don't know, participate in these meetings if they're not open. These meetings must be open to the public, okay? So I am going to make sure that they understand that if we have any of these meetings, these aren't, even though legally, with only 2 council members, only 2 board members, superintendent and city manager, we could meet privately as much as we want to because we're not violating the Open Meetings Act whatsoever. But I don't think that's prudent, and I think it's important that everybody has the opportunity to have their voice heard and be able to hear our voices as well, too, when we're talking about the issues and the topics that we may talk about, okay? So that being said, I guess I'm just looking for a consensus of the board to move forward with a committee in this stature, in this fashion.
I have a question.
Oh, can I, one last thing before you go? Mike Kleinfeld has already added it to the next city council meeting, which I think is not a week from tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to look at the calendar to be sure. But he has already sent me an email, and it has been added to the next meeting for the city council for them to discuss, and he wants to try to reach a consensus there so we can start getting this going as soon as possible. Go ahead, Ms. Richardson.
My question is, in relevance to both of us group talking together, what would be some of the issues or things you would be bringing up or speaking about?
Well, for instance, like we have a number of facilities in the community, right? And the usage of those facilities, we're going through that process right now. We have excess space in facilities that may not be used. Would the city want to work with us to try to bring some programs into the facilities for us to run? Right now, Parks and Recreation is actually run out of Roseville. There's some discussion. Also, we've had discussions in the past about Memorial Field and the usage of Memorial Field. For instance, I don't know if you realize, that's one of our primary athletic facilities, but the city actually owns it. So we're kind of in a catch-22 there. We can't make improvements to that facility because we don't own it, and the city doesn't have the money to make improvements to that facility. So it's kind of like it sits there as it is, and not a whole lot gets done with it to make sure that our students have the best facilities possible. So we're just trying to make sure that the community, because there's a lot of services where we join in together. There's a lot of services that, it's just, we're small. We're 2 by 2. Actually, with my community, with the school district and the city, I consider my community running from Shaner to 94, from 8 Mile to 10 Mile. Because that's basically the school and the city combined.
So would we still be able to see it on line on YouTube, the conversation in the group?
I don't know that we've discussed broadcasting the conversation at this time. The hope would be that we can, between the district's strategic plan and the city's long range, I think their plan goes to 2044, that we would be able to find some common ground between our 2 strategic plans to be able to leverage and work together better.
So
would be
would
our
we
hope.
be able to recommend or know what will be discussed when the two combine together?
Well, I would say most definitely, I would look at it this way, what I envision at least to start. The first meeting will probably be sitting down and deciding exactly how we're going to proceed forward. Will we want to televise the meetings? Where are we going to hold the meetings? How often do we want to hold the meetings? How are we going to be able to engage the public if we want to engage the public? Do we want to bring in some experts if we want to gather some more information on a particular topic? Maybe there's a program we want to get involved with as a school or as a city. We may want to bring somebody in to say, well, what's the best way of going about doing this? You know, is it better if we do it this way? So
And how many of the board members?
there would be actually myself and one other board member and the mayor and one other council member. I'm trying to keep it as streamlined as possible because the more people you have, the more it gets bogged down. And since this panel or this committee would only be offering suggestions to the other prospective ones and no decision-making authority whatsoever, I thought it was just a good way to get the conversation going instead of having, which we've done in the past, which I don't even know if we had an annual meeting within the last year, but we used to have an annual meeting with the city, and quite often we talk around the edges and we mention a couple things, but nothing ever really gets done with it. Nothing ever really gets done with it. We'd say, oh, we got to do something about the Memorial Field situation. And then the next meeting, oh, we got to do something about the Memorial Field situation. And the next meeting, oh, we got to do something about the Memorial Field situation. I mean, and that's how it has kind of gotten. I think it needs to be more than that. And I think we need to start to move on things as far as what are we going to do?
So the committee would come back and talk to all of us about what?
Oh, I'm quite sure. I'm quite sure there's going to be a vast amount of
I would truly
communication
hope so.
between our body and that committee as well as the city's body as well, too.
The other
Would it be-
piece is there may
would it
be
be
some
4
joint
members?
funding that both entities could write grant funding for that would be mutually beneficial as well. But we don't even know the possibilities until we sit down and start to outline what we would like to do. Ms. Richardson, I'm sorry, you had a question.
No, I was just asking, you mentioned 4, it'd be 4 people,
Be 6 people total.
6?
Yeah, because the city manager basically runs the city on a daily basis, and the superintendent runs the district on a daily basis, and we have the leader of the council, which is the mayor, and the leader of the board, and then another board member and another council member. So 6 people total. So it's not like it would even be weighted heavily on one side or the other and saying, well, you know, we got a whole bunch of, I could say, well, we got a bigger board body than the council has, so maybe we deserve 1 or 2 more members, but then that kind of pushes it. I want this to be a nice even, so that we can just go ahead and reach a nice consensus between the 2 things as to what we're going to take back to our bodies and communicate with their bodies, and maybe seek their approval. We also have to remember, when I say my community is from Shaner to 94, from 8 Mile to 10 Mile, we have to be cognizant of the fact that there's people who live in the city of East Point that don't live in our school district. And there's people that live in our school district that don't live in the city of East Point, okay? So that's another hurdle and another obstacle that we have to work through so that if we're gonna try to, and it's always been kind of a hurdle. You know, you go to the city and they get approval from the voters for a millage on something, that's for the city of East Point. But it doesn't include all of our district, all of our school district. It only includes a portion of it. Just like when we get tax approval from certain things, we're only collecting taxes from people that live in our school district. We're not collecting it from, I guess you could say, what is that, east of Kelly, south of Stevens? That area, we don't collect any taxes from that.
So John, that brings me to a question.
Yeah.
When you have this discussion or open this discussion, will it be exclusively for East Point, or are there other cities going to be involved in the discussion? Whatever discussion it may be, whatever the topic may be.
If you're asking my personal opinion, well, first off, I'm assuming that it's going to be East Point Community Schools is all that's going to be involved with this conversation right now.
That is my question.
Okay. To me personally, I am representing a portion of Warren that is not part of, the city does not represent.
Well, but we have property. Pool and
Actually, well, we have a piece of property. We don't have
Our
a school.
Our school is on that line.
Crescentwood is considered in
Yeah.
Warren.
Okay. So we have a school in Warren. So yeah, that's why I'm saying that complexity of having part of our district not in East Point, and part of East Point not being part of our district, we have to work through that. My mindset, and this is my own individual thing, living here for as long as I have, that's why I consider it all one community to me. And somehow or another, we need to get away from that hurdle. You know, as far as that, having to cross that bar as to who is actually part of your or lives in your organization's jurisdiction. You understand what I'm saying? It's kind of because, it's weird because we collect taxes, but we don't collect it from a portion of East Point. They collect taxes, but they don't collect it from Warren that is part of our district. So we have to work out how they're going to utilize their resources, what they're going to utilize them on, and what we're going to utilize our resources on, so that hopefully, I want to see it for the betterment of from Shaner, including the Warren portion, all the way to 94, from 8 Mile to 10 Mile. I'd like to see everybody within that be able to receive the same services, you know.
And I think we're on the same page, but I also believe my question is probably a little bit broader than what I want to get off tonight. There's a reason why I posed that question. So, depending on what the outcome, what you.
But this is just an initial phase.
Sure.
Initial start.
Mhm.
I'll be communicating back with you, as well as the other board
Sure.
men will communicate back with you to let you know where it's at. But I'm quite sure the very first meeting that we would have, we'd figure out a time, we'd sit down and we'd try to figure out exactly how we're gonna move forward with this committee. What our charge would be and what we're trying to accomplish and how we're gonna communicate with everybody. And I hope it's an ongoing committee, to tell you the truth. I hope it just doesn't end. No, this is not something I expect to be ad hoc, that we're trying to solve an issue and that's it and we walk away. Our communities continue to grow and evolve, so this is a committee that I think needs to be going on a regular basis.
And can you add an alternate to that meeting in case the board member can't?
Sure
make it,
thing.
But you have an alternate.
And I'll ask the mayor to do the same.
Do the same, yeah. Okay.
All good?
Thanks, John.
Okay, we don't necessarily have to have a vote on that. Meeting adjourned. 7:48.
Do we need this?
Now you want to pick his brain.
No, I'm like.